May proceed.
Mr. King, please introduce yourself to the jury.
Tyson King.
And do you know the defendant, Timothy Herrington?
I do.
And how do you know him?
We met at a camp here at Ole Miss after our junior year of high school, and then we also had a moving company together.
Okay. If you could, you said moving company together. When did you all have that moving company together?
It started right after, during the pandemic, so in the summer of 2020.
And when you say a moving company, was that here in Oxford, Mississippi?
It was here in Oxford, Mississippi, but we also did the surrounding areas too.
Okay. So tell me, what sorts of, you said a moving company, like you move people into dorms and businesses. Explain that.
So our moving company, we just move people from either, here in Oxford, it would just be from like a one apartment to another apartment. And then if we had anything outside the city, it would be from one location to the next. So just all their belongings.
And typically, was it you and Timothy who did moves together?
Yes, but we also did hire outside help.
So you and Tim would sometimes hire outside help. Under what situations would you do that?
Typically, if me or Tim wasn't readily available to do the move, we would hire outside help. Or if we had more than, let's say, if we had multiple moves that day, and we know we had a list of them, because we would typically do them. So if we knew that we couldn't do it all by ourselves, we would typically hire somebody.
So, so I understand. Typically, the two of you could do it if you could do it alone. If you could do it alone.
Yes, just depending on the size of the move.
But if you weren't available, or if he wasn't available, you all would hire somebody else so you could still have a two-man job.
Correct.
And then if you had big moves or multiple moves, the two of you would hire a third person. 3
or more, just depending on how big the move.
So I want to go back to July 8th, 2022. Were you in Oxford that day?
I was in Hattiesburg that morning, and I came back to Oxford that afternoon.
And did you and Tim have any moves scheduled that day?
Not.
And usually, did you both know if you had moves scheduled?
Yes.
And who had keys to the box truck?
We both had a key.
So did anyone else have a key?
No.
So just you and Tim had keys?
Yes.
And have you seen that box truck? Where is it now?
I have absolutely no idea.
Who took the box truck from you?
Oxford Police Department.
So the police seized the box truck?
To my knowledge.
Oh, well, did they take it in front of you?
They did, pretty forcibly.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Mr. King, please look through these photos. I'm handing the witness what's marked as State's Exhibit 51. And do you recognize what those are photos of?
Yes, it's the box truck that we had.
Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence, State's Exhibit 51, the photos of the box truck of...
Any objection?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just pictures of the box.
Pictures box.
Go ahead.
Okay. And just one picture or multiple pictures? Four pictures.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
All right, you may. That's composite 51, though, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm showing the witness, what's in evidence now is States Exhibit 51. Mr. King, can you see that in front of you? Is it showing up?
Yes,
Okay. Is that the photo of your box truck? Is that a photo of your box truck?
it is.
Okay. And this box truck, when you all decided to start a moving company, how did y'all get this box truck?
So we got the box truck. So we had been in business for 3 years at the time, and we got the box truck going into the 3rd year of business. And I think his grandfather found the box truck, and then once we decided that we were going to get it, I'm pretty sure his grandfather paid for it in cash, and I just gave him my half of it.
So Tim Harrington's family was able to find the box truck, and you all split the cost.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to point to a little sort of diamond on the side of the box truck.
Okay.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the distinctive mark of your box truck?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have, I'm just going to approach the witness. Marks for identification as, I think,
No objection.
no objection?
These are all been admitted. Is this a different picture?
This is a different picture.
Okay, go ahead.
Handing the witness what has now been admitted into evidence as States Exhibit 52. Mr. King, you recognize that photo from when I showed it to you earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And did you recognize the box truck driving in the photo?
I do.
Okay. That was an accurate representation of your box truck?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Okay.
Mr. King, do you see that date up in the corner of July 8th, 2022?
I do.
And the time at 6:57:41?
Yes.
On July 8th, 2022, at 6:57:41, where were you?
In Hattiesburg.
And zoom in. When I just had this up there with you, is that the box truck we were referring to as your box truck?
Yes.
And were you driving that box truck on that day?
I was not.
And who was the only other person that had keys?
Timothy Herrington.
And do you see Timothy Herrington sitting in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you describe what he's wearing?
I was on a navy blue suit and a red and blue tie with a white shirt.
All right. So, record shall reflect the defendant has been identified by stipulation.
Brief indulgence. Your Honor, I turn to the witness.
Cross-examination? Okay.
Morning, Mr. King. How you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing fine. I want to take you back to the time that you previously testified to around July the 8th. You testified that you were in Hattiesburg. Is that correct?
Correct.
Had you talked to Mr. Harrington that day?
On the 8th? No, I don't believe so.
What about on the 7th?
Yes.
What was the basis of that conversation?
We had done a previous move a couple of days prior, and they left some screws or something with us, and he texted me about the screws to try to return them to the person that we had moved.
Okay. Where were those screws located?
In the box truck.
Okay. And at that point in time, the box truck was parked where?
At the links.
That's where you live,
Correct.
at the time.
Correct.
Okay.
Where is it?
The links is an apartment complex here.
And I believe you testified a moment ago that in regards to the box truck and how y'all acquired it was that Mr. Harrington's grandfather purchased the box truck, correct?
Correct.
You reimbursed Mr. Harrington's grandfather for your portion of the box truck.
Correct.
And you testified that you and Mr. Harrington were the only two people that had keys to the box truck.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about your usage of the box truck. Was this a primary vehicle or a secondary vehicle for you?
Secondary vehicle.
Were there ever any instances in which you relied on the box truck as your primary means of transportation?
I think it was February of 2022. I was in a car accident and I didn't have a car at the time, and I would, from time to time, use the box truck to get back and forth.
And that's why you were a student at Ole Miss.
Correct.
So from February up until about what time frame was the box truck your primary means of transportation?
I wouldn't say it lasted long. Maybe
Fair to say a couple months.
I'd say probably like more so a couple weeks to a month.
Okay, and when you were using that box truck as your primary means of transportation, you didn't notify Mr. Harrington every time you got in and out of the box truck to drive around.
I wouldn't say that I did.
Okay, and it's fair to say that Mr. Harrington wanted to use the box truck. He wouldn't have to necessarily notify you every time. Is that a fair statement?
You could say that.
Okay. Testified earlier that when DA's office showed you a picture of the box truck, that it was seized from you pretty forcibly. What do you mean by that?
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
I didn't hear the question anyway. It was,
You testified earlier that the box truck was taken from him pretty forcibly. I'm just trying to figure out what he means by that.
I'm gonna let him answer the question.
Do you recall that day when it was taken from you?
I do.
What happened on that day?
I was in the middle of a move and I received a couple of no caller ID phone calls. And once I answered those phone calls, it was what they told me were that they were detectives at the time. And I was bombarded with questions about where the truck was, and so at the time, I just told them that I wouldn't, have any problems answering any questions that they wanted to, but I wanted to, have a lawyer present. And maybe not even a minute after that phone call, I was surrounded by police, and they just came and took me out the truck, detained me, had me out in broad daylight about 30, 40 minutes, and it's the last time I saw the truck.
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
Without your objection for the record.
Brief indulgence, John. when you came in contact with law enforcement that day, they interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
Where did that take place?
I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was like, I'm assuming like where they usually take people to interview them.
Back to yours and Mr. Herrington's moving business. Were you ever a part of any moves to Grenada or in the Grenada area with Mr. Herrington?
Yes.
And it'd be fair to say that you're familiar with Mr. Harrington's grandfather and his family and their rental properties that they had, correct?
Correct.
It'd be fair to say that if Mr. Harrington came and got the truck, took it to Grenada, were you ever involved in any of those trips other than moving trips?
Yes.
Doing work for his grandfather, things of that nature. You're involved in those things, correct?
Correct.
There were instances in which you weren't involved. Is that fair to say?
I would assume so.
Okay. Earlier, you testified what's the next exhibit? I must have this marked for identification. Witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. King, I'm going to hand you the document. And draw your attention to line 53 over here. And if you'll go over a few columns, do you recognize that phone number right there? Can you identify that number?
I don't know the number.
Well, let me ask you another question. Can you identify the number
Oh,
underneath that one? Right?
yes, that's my number.
Okay, and what is that phone number?
You want me to say my phone number?
Objection, Your Honor. He says he recognizes the number. I don't believe he should have to say his phone number out.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. Okay. I'm going to draw your attention to,
I'm going to ask you to the record, if you're not going to, don't want to say his phone number, but give some kind of identifier on it anyway, so that the record will be clear as to what number we're talking about anyway.
the last four digits of that number, you recognize those as being your cell phone number, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you recognize that message that was sent to you to that number?
Correct.
Okay. And what does that message say?
Says Emily need those screws tomorrow.
Okay. And the next entry would be a message from your phone number with those last digits being 6909.
Correct.
And what does that message say?
I left them at Love House. You're going to have to go get them. I'm in Hattiesburg.
And is that referencing the conversation that you previously testified to that you, Mr. Harrington, had on the 7th
Correct.
of July 2022?
Correct.
Briefly go over, John. Let me ask you this question, Mr. King. In between July 8th and the date in which you were apprehended by Oxford Police Department, interviewed, did you and Mr. Harrington happen to go on, have any moves together?
You said together?
Yeah.
I believe we had one move together between them. I wouldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you an exact date, but I believe it was maybe a week before he was arrested.
Okay. So that would have been somewhere in between July the 12th and July the 20th, or excuse me, the 22nd, in that time period.
Yes.
Y'all remember talking about that move?
Talking about the move?
Scheduling it?
Yeah.
Y'all corresponded with each other about the move during that time frame?
Correct.
Correct. Nothing further, John.
All right. You may cross, you may redirect.
Mr. King, you mentioned that you lived at the Links. If you're at the time, that's an apartment complex,
Correct.
and it's located here in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is it located?
If you're going towards Batesville, I've lived here so long and I still don't know the streets or the highways.
It's sort of like going back towards Batesville.
Yeah, going towards Batesville, yeah.
Okay. And what about in relation to Walmart? Is it close to Walmart?
I would say it's probably like maybe 4 or 5 minutes from Walmart.
So it's about a 4 to 5 minute trip from the Links to Walmart, right?
Correct.
And at the time of this, before you went to Hattiesburg, the truck was parked at the Links, correct?
Correct.
On cross just now, you testified that you all could go get the truck without each other if you wanted to, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you didn't always tell each other when you were going to get the truck, right?
Can you rephrase that question?
Of course. If you needed the truck, did you always tell Tim Herrington that you needed the truck?
I would say more times than not.
And did he do that for you as well?
I would assume so.
But when it came to moves,
Oh,
did you all tell each other about the moves?
correct.
Okay. So if y'all had a move, you all would inform each other.
Correct.
Is that because you were business partners in this company together, the moving company?
Correct.
The box truck was seized from you. Would it be fair to say July 26th? Does that make it sound good? 2022?
It sounds right.
So, and earlier, you said you've never received it back, right?
I have not.
So between July 8th, which you said you all didn't have a move that day, and July 26th, did you have moves?
Yes.
Did you have multiple moves?
Yes.
And it was, that's the summer, right?
Correct.
So is that one of your busiest seasons?
It is. It's peak moving season.
Your Honor.
May this witness be finally excused?
Yes, Your Honor, by the same.
Thank you for being here, Mr. King. You're free to go, or you're welcome to stay. Whichever one you like, okay?